Hi everyone, my name is Diego Sierra Farfan. I'm a student at Centro Educativo Jean Piaget, and now I'm going to talk to you about satellite constellations. Many of you may ask, what is a satellite constellation? Well, it is a group of correlated satellites of similar type and similar function, designed to be in complementary orbits, to share information under shared control. Now, this is how a satellite constellation looks like. Many satellites in different places, but they are connected and they share information between one another. Now, I must tell that this idea of satellite constellation is new. The idea originally emerged in Toulouse, France in 1997 as part of a meeting of the European Space Agency. This agency had a goal to create a huge satellite constellation to communicate everyone around the world, but also to gather more information about Earth and space. And even though they could send 66 satellites to space in 1998, it was doubtful whether they could accomplish their goal due to limited bandwidth and also to limited traffic capacity of the system. In few words, the technology of those times was very limited to accomplish such a goal. Now, in these last months of 2020, huge companies are planning to create the humongous satellite constellations that are formed not by a couple hundred, but of thousands of satellites. There are two companies that are really close to this. The first one is OneWeb, a company of England, and the second one is SpaceX, a company of United States created by Elon Musk. Both companies have the same goal, to deliver internet to everyone around the world. Now, these both companies have decided to use low orbit satellites, or LEO satellites, to make this. These satellites are under 500 kilograms of weight, and also they are cheaper to make. Now, you may ask, what's the difference between these satellites and others, such as the middle Earth orbit satellites and the geocyntrical equatorial orbit satellites? Well, the difference lies in where they orbit. Low Earth orbit satellites orbit at around 160 to 2,000 kilometers. Medium orbit satellites orbit at around 20,000 kilometers, and geocyntrical satellites orbit at 35,000 kilometers. Now, another reason why these companies have decided to use low orbit satellites is because it reduces the signal latency. For those who don't know, the signal latency is the time it is taken from a satellite to send a sign to a receptor here on Earth, and from that receptor to a user. The user is us. So, in few words, the lower the orbit is, the faster we can get internet into our cell phones, into our computers, into everything. Now, these companies have made a couple launches in 2020. The first one was OneWeb. On March 21st, 2020, they made their latest satellite launch, sending 34 satellites to space, that being their second launch in this year. And now they have a total of 74 satellites on orbit. Now, on the other hand, SpaceX has made its seventh launch in this year, having now a total of 50 satellites around the world, as part of the Starlink mission. The Starlink mission is supposed to deliver internet to everyone around the world and in a much faster way around 2021. This is an example of how the satellites of SpaceX are sent to space. They're sent in a couple dozens, and this is an image of how these satellites look at night. They are formed in a line orbiting the Earth. Now, if this is achievable, the possibilities are unimaginable. We would be at the dawn of a new era of communication, and eventually we would be at the final countdown to having 5G internet. Now, for those of you who don't know what 5G is, it's the fifth generation of internet. this means that we're going to have internet in a much faster way, but also we are going to have internet in places where before we didn't have. Because nowadays, you must know, there are countries that don't have internet. With 5G, all around the world will have internet. Another thing we could do with these satellite constellations will be to have a better image of our planet. We'll have thousands of satellites watching the same spot at the same time, so we could have a better image of, for example, hurricanes or meteorological phenomena. Now, I must tell you that both OneWeb and SpaceX has been subject to critics from scientists and astronomers that accuse them that their satellite constellations generate certain bright at night that makes them look like stars, making for the scientists more difficult their job to count stars, but also to study the universe. For example, this is an image of a forest at night. Many of us will think that these dots are stars, but the reality is that they are part of the Starlink mission. This and the fact that these satellites interfere with the radio frequency the astronomers use, this may put at risk the investigations of astronomers. Now, another danger scientists are aware of about these constellations is that these satellites may become space junk. For those of you who don't know what space junk is, are dead satellites or the leftovers of a crash of satellites. This is an example. Now, to make something clear, there are around 2,000 satellites on the world nowadays. And the space junk we have nowadays has been product of a simple crash in 2009 between two satellites. Now, what would happen if we have over 10,000 satellites in orbit? Well, I'm going to tell you. In the 69th International Space Conference in Bremen, Germany, a couple of researchers made a terrific discovery. If we send thousands and thousands of satellites to space, we would have around 67,000 crash alerts of satellites in just 1 year. That's a really alarming number, I think. This could also put the International Space Station in deep water, because if the space junk gets higher, if there is more space junk in the orbit of the Earth, it will be impossible for NASA and for other space organizations to send their trips to space. Now, to conclude, from my own personal point of view, it is okay that these satellite constellations continue. Why? Because we'll have more internet, we'll have internet in places that are unimaginable, but also we'll have better communications. But both organizations, SpaceX and OneWeb, should make allowances for these astronomers, because their job would be at risk if they continue with this project. So I think space constellations are good, but they need to be more planified. They need to have more planification in order to be achievable. Now I thank you all for watching this video. I hope you have a great day.